ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Cowboys, Eagles, NFC East family business. You know how the family do it. And if you don't, well, get used to it, because this is going to be some of the best family business that you're going to see all season long in terms of divisional play. You're going to see the NFC East probably once or twice more this season, and it's going to be some good stuff. This division doesn't suck this year, and I'm proud to say it as a member of this division. Sadly, I'm not one of the reasons that it doesn't suck. My team currently is the one team in the division that does suck, but these two teams do not suck. And this was a good football game. Didn't start out that way. This thing was 20-0 at one point in the second quarter before the Cowboys got a field goal right before the half. They scored 17 unanswered points in this game to the Cowboys. And one of the things I've said over and over again to Eagles fans during this now 6-0 start, but previous to this game, is that you got to stop this second half shit that you're doing, where you kind of just you run up the score in the first half. You scored 24 points in the first half. It was 20 tonight, but they've had multiple games this season where they've scored 24 points in the first half, and then you shut it off. And I'm telling you, you're going to lose one of these games if you keep doing this shit, okay? Tonight, you got lucky with Dallas. You had a nice drive there. It seems like in the second half, Shane Steichen, your offensive coordinator, turns into Shane Stankin, and you can't seem to get anything going offensively. But that drive, when it was 20-17, when you had to have it, credit must be given to Shane Steichen and that makeshift offensive line with some of the injuries that you incurred tonight. And Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts made a couple of plays with his legs and a couple with his arm as well. You came up big when it mattered most. And I thought you set the tone early in this game, the Eagles, by coming out and establishing the ground game. And I thought off of that, you were able to then go to some play action fake. And I thought they had some really good designs to get A.J. Brown out in space, out in the flats, really put a lot of stress on Micah Parsons. You could see what the game plan was. And I remember very vividly last week, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni saying, we'll have a plan. He will be accounted for in every play. Their plan was to read him, to force him to stand still, him not coming forward. That's how you want. And to be honest with you, I thought Dallas did a poor job of utilizing their best player, okay? They didn't move him around tonight. He was essentially stuck on the outsides, on the edges, and they took full advantage of that. And to me, my thought process would have been, you want to keep running read option and reading me? You want to run RPOs? You want to run read option? You want to read me? Guess what? If I'm the defensive coordinator against the Eagles and you want to do that shit against my best player, you know what I'm going to tell my best player? You're not reading shit. They pull that shit off, go hit Jalen Hurts every single time. Whether he keeps it or he gives it, we'll have somebody to pick up the running back if he decides to hand it to him. We'll have Barr, we'll have Van Der Esch, we'll have somebody keying that running back and getting to him. We'll take care of the rest. You don't worry about anything else. If number one wants to be a part of the play, read action, RPO, go blast his ass. Let's see how many times they keep doing that shit. I would have tore his ass to shreds. That would have been the halftime adjustment, because Dallas didn't know what the Eagles were going to do. They didn't know that they were going to read Micah Parsons in that first half. They figured it out very quickly. And so my adjustment would have been, do that shit again. Try that shit on the train, because I'm going to just keep hitting his ass. Let's see how many times you want to do that. Your quarterback will have some internal bleeding tonight, because I'm going to tear his ass up. So I thought there could have been things that Dallas could have done. And, to their credit, in the second half, they did a really good job of keeping Hurts in the pocket, bottling him up, getting after him. And I thought they should have continued to be aggressive. On that drive where they got the touchdown, there were a couple of third downs. One in particular, Hurts runs a quarterback draw, essentially, drops back and takes off and gets the first down. I thought they should continue to bring pressure. Make Hurts beat you with his arm. I don't think he could have done it. You heard what Chris Collinsworth said, and I don't agree with him, but I thought he said some really good things tonight, including Cooper Rush has already done his job. No matter what happened in this game tonight, when the Cowboys first had the injury to Dak after getting beat 19-3 in week 1 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who here thought that the Cowboys would be sitting here going into this game 4-1 in a big-time NFC East showdown with the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles? Raise your hand. I don't see many hands because no one, I don't care if you're the most devout and stout Cowboys fan, you didn't think, looking at your schedule and obviously knowing what you know now, you say the Bengals didn't start off that great. The Rams stink right now. Yeah, looking at it now, you would be able to say, yeah, we did what we were supposed to do. But looking at that schedule after week 1, you were thinking, damn, they got the Rams, they got the Bengals. You know, they got some tough games in here. And we didn't think the Giants were going to be any good, right? But you looked at that schedule and you said, man, it might be the Giants, but that's it. They won 4 in a row with Cooper Rush. So he did his job. But, you know, Chris Collinsworth said, if the Eagles would have continued to drop back Jalen Hurts, they would have coughed up this lead. I mean, that's an indictment on Jalen Hurts. But it was true. Like, they had to get to the ground game. Hurts had to use his legs because had he stayed back there trying to throw the football, they would have teed off on him, especially behind the offensive line that was going to, you know, be patchwork and had some pieces in there that they didn't start the game with. But such is life in the NFL. You know, most teams have issues up front on the offensive line with injuries and guys that weren't supposed to be starters. That's the nature of the game. You got to find a way to get it done. And the Eagles did find a way to get it done, which was impressive again. I just go back to the first half with this Eagles football team and how they get off to such great starts, because I think this is a front-running football team. And much like Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, there's nothing wrong with being a front-runner team, but that's the same problem that the Ravens currently have, is that, hey, when shit's going sweet, you're running the football, and your quarterback doesn't have to do anything but continue to be himself, everything's great. It's when you get down and now that guy's got to actually saddle up his right arm and put the team on his back and carry them by throwing the football, that's when shit gets off kilter. And so the Ravens are one of the best front-running teams. I think the Eagles have taken, I think, the lead as the best front-running team in the league. They continue to get out to these fast starts. They continue to put pressure on the opposition to have to play catch-up, and that plays into the strength of this Eagles team. I've talked about it. You can run the football on the Philadelphia Eagles. What did I tell you? The Cowboys had success running the football. When they came back in this game, they ran the football. Zeke Elliott got off in the second half. I thought there were moments where Tony Pollard had some good hits in the run game. They ran the football effectively against this Eagles football team. You can run. I don't want to hear this Jordan Davis shit about when Jordan Davis is in the game. I've talked to so many Eagles fans. When Jordan Davis can get it too, and he's really good. Don't get me wrong. But you can run on this Eagles football team, which you're going to have a tough time doing against Philadelphia, however. And this is what I've also stressed, is throwing the football. You do not want to have to drop back. They know it, you know it, and throw the football. Okay? You want to be able to keep them off balance. You want them to think a run's coming, and then they had them down the sideline. You know, week after week, the Eagles have breakdowns in that secondary, okay? And James Bradbury fell down, and you got a wide-open CeeDee Lamb. You think about week 2 against the Vikings, and Irv Smith Jr. is behind his defense for a touchdown, and he drops the football. You see breakdowns in the secondary, but they're rare. They don't happen very often. This secondary is very sticky. You make a mistake, generally you pay for that mistake. Darius Slay continues to be big play Slay. Another interception tonight. I think James Bradbury playing exceptional football. When they first got him, I was thinking, oh, that's cute. He's a good corner, but he's not going to really move the needle. He's been playing his damn ass off this year, to the point where I'm like, this secondary is impossible at times, especially when you've got Avonte Maddox playing well in the slot. And I think the missing piece, again, because I didn't respect their safeties. I thought their safety group was very underwhelming. But then when they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I said, well, damn, that's the missing piece in the secondary. And so that secondary is the best in football, if you ask me. And so you don't want to find yourself having to drop back and just throw it against those guys. And I thought when the Cowboys were able to run the football, it put stress on that secondary, because now you got to defend the pass, you got to defend the run. And so I think the Cowboys like the first 5 opponents for the Eagles this season, they fell into that trap of early in the game, falling behind. Eagles, again, they do a great job of jumping on opponents early in ball games, especially that second quarter. It's something about that second quarter with these Philadelphia Eagles. They scored 20 points in the second quarter tonight. They've had games where they've exploded. The Lions game, they exploded in the second quarter. The Washington game, they scored 24 points in the second quarter. The second quarter has been the Eagles' dominant period, and they did it again tonight. There are so many mistakes by the Dallas Cowboys in this game. I thought the game changed on the offsides penalty on Dante Fowler Jr. You know, you've gotten the Eagles in a situation where they're probably going to have to attempt a field goal. I don't remember if it was 3rd and 5 or 4th and 5. I think it was 4th and 5. Whatever the case may be, the Eagles didn't have to snap the football. I think it was 3rd and 5, but it might have been 4th and 5. They didn't have to snap the football, and this is what teams are doing right now. They're going to go up to the line of scrimmage, you know, and they're going to give you a couple of hard counts to see if they can get a free 5, and then they're going to walk down to the other end of the field, and the next snap is going to take place on the other side of the whistle, which is the next quarter. And Dante Fowler Jr., not smart, jumps off sides, gives them a free 5, gives them a first down. And that's when the barrage, I thought, started in the second quarter, because I think the very first play of the second quarter, Miles Sanders into the end zone, touchdown. And they really never looked back from that point forward in the second quarter, and scored 20 unanswered points in the first quarter, or the first half rather, before the Cowboys stopped the bleeding a bit with the field goal right before halftime. So to me, it was that play there that opened the floodgates. And it seems to always be one of those plays when I'm watching this Eagles football team that sort of opens the floodgates, so to speak. That was the one in this game. And then I thought the Eagles just took full advantage. I love the play calling in the first half for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was beautiful. I mean, they really put a lot of pressure on Micah Parsons. They put a lot of pressure on the Cowboys' edges, out in the flats, forced them to be responsible. They weren't. Guys were not assignment oriented, and they took full advantage. I mean, how many times did we see A.J. Brown out in the flats, wide ass open, making plays? I thought that they did a good job of kind of mixing up what they were doing. You know, take this run, boom. Now we go with a little fake off of it. Take this RPO, boom. I'm going to hit this slant right behind your head. I thought they did a really good job of keeping the Cowboys off balance in that second quarter to build that 20-0 lead. Also, again, Cowboys making mistakes. CeeDee Lamb gets the first down, okay? They should have challenged, but okay, fine. You don't want to challenge. What are you doing throwing a pass? You need 6 inches. Quarterback sneak the football, get the first down, and let's move the sticks. I thought that was too aggressive for that moment. If you're going to go for it at your own 35-yard line, you best convert, right? You better convert this shit. So a high percentage play is the quarterback sneak. If you're going for it on your own 35 and you need inches, you better have a wide ass open. You better have a play that's going to produce a wide ass open guy, or else you deserve to be slapped. That was a terrible play call for the moment. Again, situational awareness is so pivotal in this league, and not everyone has it. I thought that was a very, let's just call it precarious play call. It was interesting. I wouldn't have done it. I would have challenged, but again, if you're not going to challenge, you're going to go for it. Get up to the line of scrimmage quickly, snap the football, quarterback sneak, get the first down, keep it pushing. That hurt too. You gave them, I mean, they didn't need any help. You gave them the football in scoring range already. I mean, how foolish could you be? So I thought Dallas didn't do any favors to help themselves. Cooper Rush, I said this already, and he had his moments in the game, especially the third quarter when they started to mount the comeback. But he's basic. He's a basic backup, right? But again, he did his job already. I'm not going to turn tonight into a bash Cooper Rush session, because he went 4-0. And the one thing the Cowboys had done on this 4-0 streak was they didn't turn the football over. They didn't beat themselves because they don't have a massive margin for error with Cooper Rush at quarterback. That was made abundantly clear from the get-go. We don't have a massive margin for error with Cooper Rush under center. That means we got to play flawless special teams. We can't turn it over on offense. If we can produce some turnovers, great. But the biggest thing is we just can't give up big plays and a bunch of points. When the Cowboys gave up 20 in the first half, I said, well, I don't think they're going to win this game because I don't see them scoring. Because I knew the Eagles weren't done scoring. Now, I told my dad, I called Boss up on the phone at halftime. I said, what the hell are y'all doing, man? He's like, I don't know, man. We doing a bunch of bullshit, man. Told you he's from the island, so, he was pissed off. We doing a bunch of bullshit, man. I told him, he said, you going for it? What the hell you doing going for it at the 35-yard line? I said, but y'all had the first down, but quarterback sneaking. What are y'all doing? What you jumping off sides for before the end of the quarter? He said, I don't know. So a lot of mistakes in the first half for the Dallas Cowboys, but I couldn't see them. I told him, I said, boss, y'all not out of this. You know why? The Eagles are not a second half team. And he said, yeah, I know. He said, but damn, man, we dug ourselves this massive ass hole. I said, I know. We're going to see what y'all do. Y'all not dead yet. Let's see what y'all do. And they made it interesting. But they weren't going to score, like they weren't going to win this game scoring 28 points. Not against this Eagles defense, but that's just not who they are. I mean, you look at what they've done during this Cooper Rush 4-game winning streak. It was 20 against the Bengals. It was 25 against Washington. It was 22 against the Rams. And it was, 17 tonight. So, and it was 26 against the Giants, I think. I think that was the high point game against the Giants. I think they scored 26 in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they weren't going to score a bunch of points. They weren't going to win this game scoring 28. That's not what they've been under Cooper Rush. And this Eagles defense wasn't going to allow them to score 28 points. So when they got to 20 in the first half, did the Eagles, I said, oh, man, this is a steep. Like, the Cowboys were going to have to win this game 23-20 or, 20-17 or 20-16, something like that. They were going to have to hold the Eagles down physically from scoring points and win the game that way. When they gave up 20, I was like, I don't see a path to you winning this game unless the Eagles don't score another point. And they were close. They got to 20-17, and I'm thinking, could they pitch a shutout and come all the way back and steal this game? But it was not to be. The Eagles put together a masterful drive with the game really on the line. I mean, the Eagles had no momentum. Uncle Mo had gotten up, walked across the field, sat in a recliner, grabbed a bag of chips, favorite beverage, and he was on the Cowboys sideline chumming it up. And the Eagles went over there and wrestled him out of the chair and brought him all the way back across the sideline where he started the game at and sat him there for good. So big win for the Eagles in this football game. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I'm so glad he was okay because I thought that was a torn bicep. When I first saw it, I was like, uh-oh. Then I saw him clutching the wrist. He had taken the glove off, and it was a wrist. I'm like, I hope he didn't break his wrist, So I was worried. Glad he came back. He's such a big part of that Eagles defense. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I want the Eagles at their best. And he came back in the game and promptly put an end to it. That's a big play by Brandon Graham because CeeDee Lamb is running wide-ass open down the sidelines. Would have been a touchdown. Would have been plenty of time to go. Cowboys would have had all three of their timeouts, and you're looking at a 24-26, I think 26-24 game at that point if they tack on the extra point. And it's probably every bit of 5 minutes left in the ball game. And the Cowboys still have all three of their timeouts. So I thought that the 2-point conversion, going for it there was unnecessary. I know the Cowboys had the penalty. I just thought just tack it on to the kickoff. Turbin looked like he wanted to bust one off on you. Just kick the shit out of the back of the end zone, call it a day, take the 10-point lead. It would have been really interesting had the Cowboys been able to score that CeeDee Lamb touchdown because I really think they could have gotten a stop. I really think they could have gotten the football back, and I think they could have won that game 27-26. And then we would have been second-guessing that decision to go for 2. But it never got to that point, luckily enough for the Eagles. They were able to play sound defense down the stretch, get to Cooper Rush. And again, that's the one thing Rush hadn't done during his win streak is turn it over. He was a turnover machine tonight. He had 3 interceptions on the evening, did Cooper Rush, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 3 INTs. And he looked terrible in the first half, and he looked awful. He looked shell-shocked. I think that he was rattled by the environment a bit. He did not look comfortable. This Cowboys team really did not look comfortable for much of the first half until that final drive where they were able to get the field goal. And really that was sparked by the return by Kevontae Turpin, So I thought the environment kind of got to the Cowboys early in this ball game. But, that's what happens when you're undefeated. Your crowd is into it. They feed off that energy. And I thought the Cowboys looked like they were somewhat affected, man. So all in all, if you're a Cowboys fan, sucks that you didn't get the win. You're now in third place. Crazy as that may seem, that you're 4-2 and you're in third place. But, that's where you sit. But it could be a lot worse. I mean, Cooper Rush did Ullman-like work. I think Dak's going to play next week against Detroit. And you got a lot of winnable football games. You've played the toughest stretch of your schedule already. If you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, you've gotten the toughest part of your schedule out of the way. Now, you're going to have some games in there. You saw the little stretch there where there's Minnesota on the road and then the Giants after that. But, I mean, I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. And I think the Packers are right before that. Matter of fact, the next 4 opponents are all NFC North opponents. It's Detroit, Chicago, bye week, Green Bay, Minnesota, and then it's the Giants for the second time, if I'm not mistaken. Those are winnable football games. Every single one of those games are winnable football games. So you're in a good spot if you're Dallas. If Dak comes back and he's the Dak, of old that you've come to know and love, with the way you're playing defense, the only thing I worry about is, are you going to run it enough? With Dak in the lineup, we've seen Kellen Moore get a little bit pass happy. We'll see if that continues or not, but you're in a good spot. If you're the Eagles, man, you're sitting pretty. You're the only undefeated team in football. You're the best team in the NFC right now. I think you're the third best team behind the Chiefs and the Bills. What a game that was today. I still think those two teams are better than you. But I don't think there's anyone better than you in the NFC right now. I think you're the cream of the crop in the NFC. And until somebody knocks you off, I just don't see how you're not the best team in the NFC at a bare minimum. And you can make the case that they're the best team in football. I don't think they can beat Buffalo because I don't think they can keep pace with the Bills offensively. I can say the same thing for the Chiefs, but I think the Eagles could actually slow the Chiefs' offense down and drag them down. I don't think they can do that to the Bills, honestly. I think the Bills would boat race them and really present a lot of problems for them because of Josh Allen's ability to run. That's the thing that you add into the mix there with them that makes them so dangerous is Josh Allen's legs. Even though Mahomes can scramble too, that's not his thing. Like, Allen is a problem, similar to Jalen Hurts. Like, he puts a lot of stress on your defense with his legs. But this Eagles team is legit, man. I mean, they're 6-0. They're playing outstanding football. They're finding ways to win. They're getting off the fast starts. I still want to see what happens. And I know Jacksonville was a good barometer there. But I still want to see, because Jacksonville isn't the type of team that's going to, mash the gas. Like, they jumped on them early in that game, but it was a wet, sloppy, nasty day. I want to see what happens when an offensive team jumps the Eagles. And I don't think we're going to see that. That's the thing. I said this before when the schedule came out, when we were talking about the NFC East as a whole and what could happen. My biggest gripe with the Eagles was Jalen Hurts. I said, I don't think he's good enough. I said, if Jalen Hurts takes the next step, which he has taken, if he takes the next step, this is easily a 12-13 win Eagles football team. Why? Because the schedule, I've talked about the schedule. I know a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but I talked about the schedule. You want to know why the NFC East is as good as it is this year? The schedule. You need look no further than the schedule, okay? We play the AFC South, which is a terrible division. It's the worst in football. And we play the NFC North. That's not a great division either. And the Packers stinking this year makes it an even more vulnerable division. But it's the Bears, it's the Lions, it's the Packers, all winnable games. And the Vikings aren't all that great either, okay? I still have my reservations about the Vikings. So I don't think that's a great division. So you're playing that division, you're playing the AFC South. And so I look at the schedule for all the teams in the division, and I felt like there were going to be 3 double-digit win teams if Hurts could be good. Now, I thought Washington would be the third, not the Giants, but Clearly, it's the Giants, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. And I think all three teams have a legitimate shot at winning double-digit games this season. And I think the Eagles are going to lead the way with this roster as it's constructed. If they can stay relatively healthy, they had some injuries tonight. Hopefully, they're not significant. But with this roster construction and Jalen Hurts playing good football, now, again, they got to continue to be front runners. I do not think that this team can live with Jalen Hurts just dropping back and throwing the football. They have to be in a position where the run is a threat. Because if you take the RPO game away, if you take the read option element out of this offense, and you just tell Jalen Hurts, you've got to drop back. We can spread them out and go empty, but you got to throw the football consistently. I don't think he can win you football games doing that. But they haven't been in a position where they've had to do that. And so I think they have to just continue to do that. But in the playoffs, that's when things get really interesting because everybody's good then. But this season is nuts. Maybe you get to the playoffs and nobody's good because the NFC to me has just been terrible this year. So it'll be interesting to see what the hell happens. But this is another impressive victory, especially the first half. I still have my reservations about the Eagles in the second half of ball games. This continues to be a problem for them. But the dominance in the first half, specifically the second quarter, has been outstanding. And because of that second quarter dominance, they've been able to continue to stay balanced on the ground. But more importantly, they've been able to continue to get after teams with that secondary because now we know you have to throw the football. You have to come to us. And that's when it gets scary because that secondary is so good. A big win for the Eagles tonight as they go to 6-0. Hurts gets his first win over the Dallas Cowboys in his career. So he gets that monkey off his back. And Cooper Rush gets his first loss of his NFL career as a starter. He was previously 5-0. Now he's 5-1. But again, he's done his job. You look at him as a bench player in the NBA or a reliever in Major League Baseball. It's nothing but high fives for Cooper Rush as he comes out of the game and sits down on the bench. If he's in the MLB, that's a curtain call. You got to come back out here, take your cap off, and allow the crowd to serenade you with a round of applause. If you're an NBA player, you got to go and give every guy on the bench a high five. The coach is going to give you a hug when you comes out of the game because what you did effectively is you kept this Cowboys season afloat. Without your play over these last 4 weeks, you're not in this position to say, all right, Dak, we passing you the baton. We 4-2. Now we need you to get us to 9-2 because it could happen with the next 5 games. So anyway, let's talk. See what you guys have to say. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, Lou, I could be wrong, but I think the Eagles might be legit and the Giants might not be a fluke. You're not wrong. I never thought the Eagles were going to be fraudulent this year if Jalen Hurts. My criticism, if you go back and listen, and I know a lot of Eagles fans have wax in their ears, okay? So they didn't hear anything that I said. The only thing they said is, oh, Louie T's a hater. He's a hater. But I've said this consistently. If Jalen Hurts is good, this is a third. I said the Eagles have the closest schedule to Washington in the division, okay? Meaning that their schedule is set up for success if Jalen Hurts isn't a fraud. If he doesn't suck and he takes a step forward, which he clearly has, this team is going to win 12 or 13 games. Easy. There's no doubt in my mind because I was predicting 11, 12 wins for Washington, right? So I'm telling you, right, and their roster is way better than Washington's roster. Way better. So if I'm predicting that kind of a win total for Washington, my thought process was the Eagles, if Hurts isn't terrible, this is a 13-win team. To a 12, 13-win team, easy. They're legit. I saw that early in the season. I said, okay, if they can continue to be front runners, they're going to be tough to beat. The Giants, they're the ones where I was like, man, get out of here. This shit is fluky. They're not serious. When they beat the Green Bay Packers, and look, the Packers are not the Packers. And I told you guys this in like week 4. The Packers, something's off with the Packers, the Bucks, and the Rams. None of those teams are right. I talked about that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And every single one of those teams lost today. Well, the Rams didn't lose today. But that's because they played Carolina. They easily could have lost that game if they weren't playing the Panthers, right? So I talked about, these teams struggling. But even with that said, the Giants were down 17-3 to the Green Bay Packers. And they rallied and won that football game. So after that, I'm like, the Giants are legit. I didn't think they were going to beat the Ravens, but it didn't shock me today that they beat the Ravens. Last week when they beat Green Bay, that shocked me. That because I expected them to be 3-3 after the next 2 games against Green Bay and Baltimore. Well, they've won both of those games, so they're not playing around. They're 5-1. Okay, they're serious about their business. Okay, that's a well-coached team, similar to these Eagles, well-coached football team. Okay, and I love Nick Sirianni's energy. Like, I love Brian Daboll's energy. I love young energy on the sidelines. I told you, you don't have to have it. You can have a stoic demeanor over on the sidelines, but who doesn't love the coach that's running down the sidelines as the guy gets a pick? Who doesn't love the coach that's super animated? Like, Nick Sirianni is young. He's full of energy. The players gravitate towards that. Did you see at the end of the game where Odigizua tackled Jason Kelsey? And like, Nick Sirianni looked like he wanted some of the smoke. Like, bro, let me out there. Let me at him, right? Like, Fletcher Cox is like, bro, sit your ass down. You ain't doing shit. But the players love that. I look at the Giants and I look at their coach over there, and he's getting fired up. And he's having fun, but he's getting after the officials. Like, there's an energy. Like, again, I know the Jets. They've been a running joke, but you see Robert Saleh over there. You see the energy that he has. Like, there's something about a young coach with a ton of energy. We've seen Sean McVay run down the sidelines, whether it's to call a timeout or a guy makes a play and Sean McVay's in the end zone celebrate, right? Like, we've seen that. There's something about that youthful energy that players love, that they gravitate towards. And again, you don't have – Bill Belichick isn't running down the sideline unless he's trying to throw a challenge flag or call a timeout. He's not jumping up and down, congratulating anybody or excited after a play. Like, he's stoic on the sideline for the most part. You don't have to be one of those guys, in order to be successful. But, man, is it a lot of fun to watch, and I think the players do feed off of that energy. So, I'm looking at the Giants, and I see that with them. I'm looking at the Eagles. I see that with them. And I see all of these teams with these young coaches with all of this energy, and I can't help but think, man, that shit, I think it's infectious, And no shot, no disrespect to Ron Rivera, but I'm seeing this guy arms folded on the sidelines, kind of stoic, looks a little lost and disheveled, kind of discombobulated. I want a guy engaged that knows what the hell's going on, right? I don't always feel that way about Ron Rivera and some of these other older coaches in the league. Pete Carroll's running up and down the sideline, chewing a big-ass wad of gum. You would think he was one of these 41-year-old coaches. Pete's 70-something. But I think that energy, the players feed off of that, man. So I don't know how the hell I got all the way over there. I can do that from time to time, but I'm going to bring it back full circle and tell you, no, the Giants aren't a fluke. Again, unless Jalen Hurts was asked, the Eagles were going to be good this season, okay? So I never looked at the Eagles because even at their worst, and I thought, and I was a big Jalen Hurts is going to stink guy. So even at their worst, I still had them at 9-8, okay? That was what I had them with, Jalen Hurts being trash. So imagine what they're going to be if he's good. If he was trash, I had them at 9-8. He's good. So what do you think they're going to be? So there was never a doubt in my mind that the Eagles were legit. If you needed tonight's game to prove to you that the Eagles were legit, then, I don't know what to tell you. But the Giants, you might not have believed what you saw last week against the Packers. I think that was the one that should have sold you that they're legit. But if you were still questioning, today should have put that to bed. The Giants are definitely not going away. We'll see what happens, but it's a long season, but we'll see. Red Wings 01, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, my impressions after watching the Packers was this is the team we're going to lose to on Sunday. Their O-line looks worse than ours. And what's a wide receiver? We're not going to lose to the Packers. I already told you that. And I'm going to be honest with you. Taylor Heineke's going to start. Carson Wentz's finger is broken. And I was afraid that news was going to come out. And I kind of alluded to that. I didn't want to speak it into existence, which is why I didn't go out and say it. But I was thinking it, and I kind of alluded to it when I said that all we can do is hope that the news we get on Carson Wentz's, hand is positive news. But I wanted to say, I'm no doctor. I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, but I think he broke his finger because we've seen that. Dak Prescott did the exact same thing. We've seen guys hit their hands on helmets. We've seen guys hit their hands on another guy's hand, which is what happened to Carson. And the end result is always a broken finger. It's never, oh, he just sprained a finger, or, oh man, it's dislocated, but we popped it back in. He'll be fine. It's always broken. It's always broken. So I'm like, the likelihood is we saw him playing around with it, trying to keep it warm. I was like, the likelihood is he broke his finger, right? Well, that's what it is. It's fractured, and that's a 6-week injury, just like Dak Prescott, 6-week injury. Taylor Heineke's going to run the offense better. And I think at this current moment, with where we are, with the defense playing as well as it is, and all of these weapons that we have, I hate that the threat of the big play is probably gone down the field with Taylor Heinicke. But you know what's going to also, come alive potentially is now the offense being run at a much more efficient and higher level, because Heinicke's going to get rid of the football. He's going to get it to guys. He knows the offense way better than Carson Wentz does. And I don't think Scott Turner, you heard what Ryan Fitzpatrick said on Thursday Night Football about Scott Turner's offense. He said it's a plug and play offense. They don't adjust their play calling to the strengths of the guys that they have. You have to acquiesce. You have to fit in to what it is that we do. Those are the worst type of play callers. And you see that shit with Scott Turner. We've already talked about that. He doesn't have a feel for what Carson Wentz is good at and what he's not good at. And so I think Heinicke is more of a guy that can fit the system. Like, hey, Heinicke knows my system, and he's going to come in and he's going to run it the way I want it to be run. So I like our chances on Sunday. But I told you that before the season started. I thought we were going to beat the Green Bay Packers anyway. But, we'll see what happens. Let's see. Y'all some dumbass Eagles fans. This is an Eagles and Cowboys stream, dumbasses. Why would I be talking about the Commanders unless somebody brings it up? Anyway, I don't even know why I even responded to y'all dumbasses. Red House, not Roadhouse. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, wish Washington could have picked up Bradbury. Shaking my head. He was the one Carolina Panther that I wanted. Instead of going after William Jackson III, I told you, I made it abundantly clear. I didn't want Curtis Samuel. I wanted Corey Davis. I haven't backed off of that. I would prefer us to have Corey Davis instead of Curtis Samuel. But what's done is done. And I wanted James Bradbury. I wanted nothing to do with William Jackson III. And not to say that William Jackson III wasn't a guy that I would have been fine with, because when we got him, I was excited about it. But I would have preferred to just have kept Ronald Darby. I mean, he was playing so well for us. But I understood that the history of Ronald Darby is this dude's going to get hurt. What has he done this year? He's gotten hurt. What did he do last year? He got hurt. So the 2 years since he's been gone from Washington, he's gotten hurt. So I understood the apprehension to bring back Ronald Darby at $10 million per year. But I was more of a, hey, go get James Bradbury. If the Giants want to move on from him. And this was before he left, this is before he got to New York. This is when he was leaving Carolina in free agency that year that we got William Jackson. I wanted James Bradbury, and he didn't go after James Bradbury. And that sucks, because I thought he was the better corner, and Ron knew that James Bradbury could play in his defensive scheme. He didn't know that about William Jackson III. They just figured, oh, William Jackson III's long, active, fast corner that can play man. He should be able to play zone, and shit has not worked out at all. Bradbury's playing his ass off this year. Better than he played last year. I wasn't expecting him to be this good, to be honest with you. John Livingston, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JL Smooth, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, What's up, Lou? Sorry, got away. He says, sorry, gotta shoo away those birds who may be 6-0, but it's the most mediocre 6-0 I've ever seen. We beat Mahomes today. You beat Cooper Rush. I couldn't agree with you more. That's part of the reason. And again, Eagles fans are going to call me a hater. I'm used to it. I don't care. All right, I'm just speaking my truth. It hasn't been overly impressive, the 6-0 by the Eagles. What has been impressive is their first halves. All right. What's impressive is when you get a team down 31 to 30, 31 to 3, and you beat them 38 to 3. That's impressive. What you did to the Steelers last week is when you got your foot on somebody's throat, you keep it on their throat and you don't let up. When you put a 40 spot on somebody's skull just because I can, that's impressive. If a team is garbage, make sure that they know that they're garbage, okay? The Eagles jump on teams, but they don't absolutely destroy teams. I want to break your spirit and your will. I want to crush your soul. They don't do that. And the best of the best in the league, that's what they do. They crush your soul and your spirit. And again, I've said this already. I think if you put them in a situation where Hurts has to beat you, I still don't think he can do that. But that was a fun game. It's rare in today's day and age where we build up a regular season matchup the way we built up Bills and Chiefs. It's rare that we build up one of those matchups and it actually lives up to the hype. But we built that matchup up of Chiefs and Bills, and it delivered. What a football game that was. I enjoyed that start to finish. I thought that both teams were over-aggressive unnecessarily because they respected the opponent so much. And Tony Romo said, this is going to be a low-scoring game. And he called it. And I think both teams thought, I'm going to have to score 30-some-odd points to win this game. And it turned out that 24 was more than enough. So what a game that was, though. Awesome game. Can't wait to see it again in January. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dejan writes, "Sup, Lou? I'm from Wisconsin and went to the game Thursday, and I got the gloves of B-Rob and Montez. We're still breathing as long as they show fight. I'm happy." Hey, that's what's up, man. I'm glad you were able to get to the game and enjoy yourself, see a win. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest of victories, but it was a victory nonetheless. Got a couple of souvenirs for your travel, and you're right. We are still breathing. We're not dead yet. I told you we're still on that respirator. All right, we still got some oxygen being fed to our brains. We're showing a little bit more brain activity and signs of life, but we're gonna need more. We're gonna need more wins in order to pump more life into this season. Right now, it's still not looking good for the home team, but there's plenty of time left. That's the good thing. But it's getting late early, right? You're heading into week 7, so you're running out of time to say that it's early anymore. So as you get deeper into October, you got to start making a move if you're a team like Washington. But I'm glad you had fun. Glad you saw a win. Glad you came away with some souvenirs as well. Damon Brown, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Josh Allen for MVP? Absolutely. I mean, I think that was most people's, guess. I would think he was the odds-on favorite. If not, maybe it was Tom Brady. But I'd like to think that it was Josh Allen going into the season. The Bills were the Super Bowl favorite. I'd like to think that most people felt like the Bills were the best team in football going into the season, that they were the best team equipped to win the Super Bowl. And the reason they felt that way is because of who was under center in Josh Allen. So absolutely. And he hasn't disappointed. He's had his moments this season that have been a little bit frustrating. But for the most part, he's lived up to, just like the game today, he's lived up to the billing. And so I think he's the front runner right now. It started out with Lamar Jackson. I think Jalen Hurts was in the mix early. He's cooled off considerably. And now I think it's really more along the lines of Josh Allen. It's kind of taking control of that discussion and gotten out in front of everybody. So anyway, I digress. The Cubone, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Cubone writes, Tough loss today for Jacksonville, but we can't falter any further. Giants plays ugly, but winning football. We are only a game and a half behind, need to start winning. That's a tough loss today because you minimized what you needed out of Trevor Lawrence. You ran the shit out of the football, and you had every opportunity to put the Jaguar. You had them down big early, and you had every opportunity to put the Colts down, and you let Matt Ryan slice and dice you. I mean, he single-handedly put the Colts on his back and destroyed you in that football game. And honestly, with the way you had been playing defense, there's no excuse for that. Really disappointed because I picked you to win the game. I thought you would go in there and win. And then, and this was before I found out that there was going to be no Jonathan Taylor nor Nyheim Hines. And I said, oh, yeah, they're in trouble. And you let them throw it 58 times. Matt Ryan threw it today. 58 times. And he completed 42 passes for 370 yards, a bunch of touchdowns, including the game winner. When it's 3rd and 13 and you give up a touchdown to a rookie, I was so disappointed in the Jaguars today. Epic fail by the Jags. That's a debilitating loss. Debilitating loss for Jacksonville. 2 in a row, honestly speaking. Shouldn't have lost to the Texans last week, and then you had the Colts right where you wanted them. You let them off the hook. Should have swept them this year. That's a big loss, Q-Bone. Let's see. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, writes, greetings, Lou. What's up, JP? Good to see you as always. First off, how the Vikes are even 5-1 is beyond me. Secondly, we need to have a serious convo about Green Bay and Baltimore. The Vikings are 5-1 because they found ways to win and they don't beat themselves. And when the game is on the line, they've come up big this season. You can say what you want about Kirk Cousins, and he's not clutch. But in the biggest spots this season, whether you're talking about against Minnesota or Detroit, he throws a touchdown pass in the final in under a minute to go in that game. He throws a touchdown pass to Osborne. Against the Saints, he gets the football back late, throws a dime down the sidelines to Justin Jefferson to put them in field goal range for what we thought was the game-winning field goal. It ultimately ended up being the game-winning field goal, but the Saints had a shot in a double doink that didn't go through that could have sent it to overtime, but Kirk was masterful down the stretch of that football game. And so when you see what they've done this season and how he's played in those moments, how they've taken advantage of the schedule, the Dolphins didn't have Tua. They prepared all week to have Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. He breaks his hand in the first quarter of the game, and Teddy Bridgewater has to come in and plays well, but doesn't play well enough. And so they took advantage of the Dolphins, who were compromised. They took advantage of situations that have been put in front of them. You can't fault them for just beating the teams that have been put in front of them on the schedule. The only team that they've lost to are these same Eagles that got it done tonight. And they had their chances in that ball game against Philadelphia. Every opportunity to make that a ball game, and they just failed to get it done. Kirk was absolutely awful in that game. But yeah, they're 5-1, and they deserve to be 5-1 because they've been getting it done when it matters most. As far as Green Bay and Baltimore are concerned, I saw this coming with Green Bay. We talked about this in the preseason when Aaron Rodgers talked about these receivers, and I said, it's not going to be the same. And I've talked about it. I talked about this last year, and I talked about it the year before. This offense in Green Bay, it's a very basic offense, okay? There's not a lot to it. The same thing can be said for the Rams. They all run the same offense, right? That same, ZBS, zone run blocking scheme, stretch offense, right? They all run that same outside zone, play action fake, bootleg. Minnesota runs the same shit. Cleveland runs the same shit. If you execute it to a T, it's tough to stop. But if you don't have playmakers, if you're missing guys that can do things, the creativity is lacking already as is in those offenses. And so if you don't have guys that are dogs, you're going to struggle. And in LA, they just got Cooper Rush, so they're struggling. All right. In Green Bay, they had to, but if you got one guy, and that's why the Rams have been able to stay afloat, but you need others, right? But you got to have that one dog first to set the tempo. That's what the Rams have, and that's why they're slobbing all over OBJ's now, because they're like, Van Jefferson can hurry up and come back and get OJ. And they thought that Allen Robinson was going to be that guy to just fill that void for them, but he hasn't been. Green Bay, they missed Devontae Adams. Now Randall Cobb is hurt. We talked about this before the season. I said you can't trust an old-ass Randall Cobb. You can't trust Samuel Watkins. Both of those dudes are hurt. Now you're relying on rookies. Allen Lazard and a bunch of rookies. They're in trouble, okay? They're in trouble because Aaron Rodgers' safety net was always, worst case scenario, I always got 17. No matter what, I got 17, and then Allen Lazard off of 17, and then I'll sprinkle in whatever else I need to fill in the gaps. Well, now there's no 17, so Allen Lazard comes to the front of the line. He's not a true number one, but he can pass off as a low-end number one, but then you got nothing after that. You got a bunch of young boys trying to find their way. Well, good luck with that shit, because you had the veterans there, but I said these are veterans you cannot rely on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Green Bay. The defense is okay, but it's not great. It can't carry them. That's the problem, is they need offense because the defense is good, but it can't carry them. And in Baltimore, their biggest problem right now, to me, is the defense. They're not good enough. They're not good enough on defense. Look, Lamar, he cost them the game today with his play, especially down the stretch. You can't make some of the mistakes he made, especially that interception. You're up 20-17. You can't make that. You can't make that mistake. You can't make that throw. The snap goes off your arm. You run back. You retrieve it. You outflank the guy that has contained. Throw the shit away. Yeah, I get it. It's 3rd and 5. You don't want to give up on the play. You think you see your open fullback there. You're throwing across your body. You can't see the whole field. There's a guy sitting right there, Julian Love, sitting right there watching you, waiting for you, baiting you, hoping you throw this football so he can go step in front of it. You got to throw that away, kick the football off, and punt the football off and force the Giants to go the length of the field to beat you. Worst case scenario, Graham Gano comes out, and kicks a 51-yard field goal to send the game to overtime. You had no business losing that game in regulation. Lamar imploded. But you know what? It's been the defense that's imploded. They imploded against the Miami Dolphins. They imploded against the Buffalo Bills. These are games that they were leading big in, and they ended up losing those games. And, again, it's not just the defense. The offense stopped scoring against Miami. The offense stopped scoring against the Bills. And I thought they should have kicked the field goal. I thought that was over-aggressiveness, and that can hurt you at times from John Harbaugh. And so I think the Ravens are fine. I think they're going to ultimately be around when it's all said and done. I don't think they're good enough to play with the Bills and the Chiefs and teams like that in the conference, however. But they'll be around. That defense to me still has, a long way to go. And they hurt when they don't have Rashad Bateman, because without Bateman, they don't really have a true threat at receiver. It's just the tight ends, really, that you have to concern yourselves with. And the Giants really benefited from no Rashad Bateman. He's a difference maker. He's proven that early in the season already that Rashad Bateman is a big-time playmaker for them. And him not being in the lineup the last 2 weeks has really hurt the Ravens offense. Barely got away against Cincinnati, wasn't able to do it against the Giants. But they're not the only team struggling. You know what I'm saying? This year, it's a lot of teams struggling this season. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Joe Rockhead J, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, winners and losers, bruh. I got all of the stuff. I was out of the office. I just literally got back into the office in the third quarter of this ball game. So wasn't able to get everything loaded up. It'll be up either later on tonight or first thing in the morning. So you'll have an opportunity to see all of that stuff. No doubt about that. Let's see. JL Smooth, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, 105.3 JL Smooth writes, Lou, Romo convinced me. Josh Allen is an alien. I still sit and think, man, I'm so happy I was wrong about him. Random. Jets 4-2. Didn't see that coming. I thought the Jets would be better this year, but I'd be a damn liar if I said I thought they would be 4-2. Never saw that coming. I thought they'd win like 7 games this year. they'd be much improved. But did I think they'd be 4-2 after 6 weeks of football? Heck no, especially after the start of the season that they had. And, some of it is lucky. They had no business beating Cleveland. Like, everything had to fall into place in that particular game, in that situation, for them to win the way that they did. But it happened. And what you can say is, yeah, that was fluky. And even their second win of the season was somewhat fluky. What you can't say is the last two have been fluky. They dominated Green Bay today. I mean, they went in there and stomped a mud hole, gave Aaron Rodgers his biggest loss at Lambeau Field in a game in which he's played in all 4 quarters. All right. Spanked him at the crib. Snapped the Packers' 15-game home win streak in the regular season. Okay. And then last week, took it to a Dolphins team that was compromised, but they were the ones that made them compromise. They felt good about Teddy Bridgewater going in that game. And they went in there and stomped a mud hole in the Miami Dolphins. Knocked Teddy out in the first possession and then kicked Skylar Thompson's ass. So they've been dominant the last 2 weeks. They're playing outstanding football. They've won 3 in a row. And they're playing with a ton of confidence. Didn't see that coming. If I would have told you, hey, there's a team in your division that's just a game back after 6 weeks, you would have said, oh, easy. That's Miami. Easy. That's New England. Probably you would have said Miami. No, it's the New York Jets. Who would have thought? Go figure, right? That's the kind of season it's been. As far as Josh Allen is concerned, I've loved Josh Allen since the first time I laid eyes on him I don't know why I want to call it Nevada. Damn, why am I blanking? I can see the damn jersey. Why can't I remember the school he went to? I don't know why I'm blanking on those ugly, brown uniforms with the yellow. It'll come to me. But I remember seeing him for the first time thinking, oh my God, like he epitomizes everything that you want in an NFL quarterback. He's big, strong arm, athletic, can throw off of multiple platforms, can run, he's physical. I'm like, there's nothing here that, and then, the one thing that they criticized about him was the turnovers. And that last year, at school, he lost a lot of guys. Jacob Hollister went to the NFL. His running back, Hall, went to the NFL. And you could see he was pressing. He was trying to make a lot of things happen. And I think that's what the source of the turnovers were. And we've seen Josh Allen press before. Remember the Texans playoff game? His first ever playoff game, and it got to overtime, and he's lateraling the football backwards, doing stupid shit. We've seen him press and do dumb shit before. But what we also have seen is him grow and mature, and he's turned into an absolute animal. Can hurt you with his legs, can hurt you with his arm, can hurt you with his head. He's cerebral. He's super accurate. Remember when the knock on him was he wasn't accurate as a quarterback? That was one of the knocks on him coming out of college is, oh, he's not accurate, and you can't fix inaccuracy. Interesting. I can tell you this much. Dude's pinpoint accurate. That throw for the game winner to Dawson Knox, he's in the pocket telling him, hey, go this way. No, go this way. Here, over here. Dart, touchdown. Like, he's cerebral, man. He's cerebral. I love it. Let's see. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Red Wings 01 writes, I remember when you said, I'm not doing a draft 101 on Bailey Zappe. He ain't worth my time. I do remember saying that. He says, I think he took exception to that. I think he took that personally, right? Bailey Zappe had himself a day today, threw over 300 yards. They scored 37 points on the road at Cleveland and got the win. I was very disrespectful to Bailey Zappe. But I was disrespectful to Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones, the miggity Mac, pow, the miggity Mac, pow. But they landed in the perfect spot for their talents. You stick Bailey Zappe on 28 of the 32 NFL teams, and he's going to suck, okay? You put him on about 4 teams in the NFL, and he'll be able to do what he's done in New England. You know, there aren't many places that are set up for a stationary, pocket passing, statuesque type quarterback. New England is one of those places set up for that. And so, because they went from Tom Brady to Mac Jones. So they are set up to protect in the pocket, not have to do a lot of, bootlegs and getting guys off the spot, using your legs and all that stuff. They're set up for a guy that's not really mobile to be successful. There aren't a lot of teams set up like that. So he's in a great spot. And, he's played well to the point where I'm like, are they discussing whether Mac Jones, and I know that's hogwash. It's like the equivalent of talking about Cooper Rush over Dak Prescott. Like, there's not even a conversation. But I know Mac Jones is probably chomping at the bit to get back because now Bailey Zappe's playing so well. He's like, yo, I don't want this dude taking my job. So we'll see what happens. But I still don't think Bailey Zappe's all that great. But he's playing well. There's a difference between being a great quarterback and playing great. There's a big difference. Just like there's a difference between being a great team and playing great. You can play great in stretches and you can be playing some good football. Doesn't make you a great team. There's a difference. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, what do you think of the Eagles OC? Should the Commanders poach? Nah, I'm good. Leave Shane Steichen right where he's at. I think he's done some really good things, though, with Jalen Hurts. And I thought that that drive when it was 20-17, that was an impressive drive. I thought the plays that they called in the first half, specifically the second quarter when they got hot, I thought they were brilliant. And so he looks like a guy that's creative and can do some things, when given the right pieces. I think he can do some things, but I'm good on him. I mean, there are other guys that I'm way more interested in. I don't love either one of the Eagles coordinators. They can have both of them. I know both of their names have come up, specifically Jonathan Gannon, which I still struggle to understand because I don't think he's really done anything significant nor special with this defense. I just think it's a good collection of players, and he hasn't really done anything other than say, hey, you guys just go play ball. Like Chris Collinsworth, pointed out very poignantly, I may add, the middle of the field is wide ass open. It's there for the taking. If you want it, knock yourself out. But clearly the Cowboys wanted no parts of the middle of the football field for whatever reason. I can't tell you why, but it was there for the taking. I don't think he does anything significant nor special. I just think he's like, I got a talented, group of defenders. And so I'm just going to let these guys go out and play ball. Not going to really ask them to do too much. Not going to blitz a ton. I don't need to, If I can get pressure with 4, which is what all coordinators want to do. If I can get pressure with 4, I'm going to do that. But more importantly, I don't want to put these guys in a compromising position because they're so good back there. I could put them one-on-one and feel good about it and feel like my guys are going to win these matchups. But why not swarm in that secondary? Why not have linebackers dropping, into zones, underneath stuff? Why not have guys being able to jump routes because there's help? I don't need to have these guys be in situations where they don't have help, so they have to play a little bit more tentative. I want James Bradbury jumping an underneath route because he knows he's got safety help over the top. And that's what Bradbury did. He jumped an underneath route, and the ball goes right to the safety. He's allowed to do that because there's safety help over the top. You can be aggressive. But if I'm blitzing, if I'm mixing up looks and coverages, then you got to be a little bit more passive. You got to stay off. You got to give them space because you don't want to give up anything because there's no one behind you. So I'm good on the Eagles coordinators. There are other guys around the league that I'm really interested in. But again, interested for what? Ron's not going anywhere. So again, We keep talking as if Ron's about to get canned. Ron isn't going anywhere, guys. I can't stress that enough. Let's see. V-Child, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, do you think Jalen Hurts is going to contend for an MVP either this season or in the future? I'm still personally not totally sold. Nah, I don't think that's his future at all. I don't think he's an MVP caliber player. I think he's a really good player right now. He's playing at a high level. He's doing what the Eagles need him to do. But, I mean, you look at tonight's game. What was he? 15 to 25? 12 to 25? What's the number here? 15 to 25 for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did what his team needed him to do to win the game. Okay? But I don't – that can't be something that you gloss over, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses, okay? The MVP is about numbers, okay? It's about stats. Wins are also a part of that, and so that gets taken into consideration, but it's an individual award is the MVP. It's not a team statistical award. It's given to the best individual player. Now, usually that player comes from one of the best teams in football. So it's usually synonymous that the two go hand in hand. So I can't recall, and I'm not saying this has never happened, but I can't recall the MVP coming from a 6-win team in my lifetime, and I've seen players dominate the league. Like Calvin Johnson one year almost had 2,000 yards receiving, but the Lions were awful. He didn't win league MVP. Had the Lions been 13-3 and he had 1,941 yards receiving, he's the MVP of the NFL. So the award usually goes hand in hand, but you got to put the numbers up. And, it was funny because they showed Jalen Hurts' stats, as the game, when you start the game off, they give you the starting lineups, and then they show you a little chyron of the quarterbacks usually. And they put his total amount of touchdowns, not his passing touchdowns, but his total amount. And that's cool because he's a dual threat quarterback. He uses his legs, he uses his arm. But they didn't put his passing touchdowns up there because he doesn't have a bunch of them, right? He's probably got just as many, if not more, rushing touchdowns than he does passing. I know he had 2 touchdowns throwing tonight, which probably puts him over whatever he had rushing going into this game tonight. But at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts is really good for the Eagles. He's a big part of the reason why they're 6-0. But I don't see him winning an MVP. And in a league with guys like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and the young crop of quarterbacks is so great. And they're on teams. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, like these are his contemporaries. These guys aren't going anywhere, and they're going to be around for the next 12 to 15 years. There's no way Jalen Hurts is winning an MVP with the likes of these guys surrounding him. I just don't see it happening. But that doesn't mean he won't be in the discussion, maybe a couple of times. If he continues to, on the track that he's on, that doesn't mean he won't be in the discussion. I just don't see him winning it. So I don't think he's going to win the MVP this year either. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy John Perez writes, so our folk hero quarterback Taylor Heineke, as Tony Kornheiser calls him, is going to start going forward. Is our annual 4-game win streak possible? At some point it's coming. We just won one. It was ugly. Everybody was ready to jump off the bandwagon, and they think that there's no chance of us winning 4 games this season, let alone 4 of them in a row. Why not? Now's the time. If you're going to try to go have yourself a season, now's as good a time as any. And looking at the schedule, it's set up for you to be able to do it if you're going to do it. Packers are reeling right now. They're struggling. See if you can't get one up off of them. You go to Indy after that. And again, I'm not one of those people that like to look ahead at the schedule because this is a week-to-week league and anything can happen. And as we know, the league is drunk this year. So who the hell knows what's going to happen? I can tell you this much. Take it one at a time. The mantra and the moniker has been go 1-0 this week. We went 1-0 last week. The goal is to go 1-0 again this week, and then we'll see what happens after that. But, Heineke is This is what a lot of fans wanted. I was not one of them, but I do recognize and acknowledge that he gives us a much better shot offensively than Carson Wentz does with where Carson Wentz was in his process. Wentz was battered. He was bruised. And somebody, I think it was an Eagles fan that told me this the other day, said Carson Wentz is not mentally tough enough. And one of the things that I've seen from Wentz during this young NFL season is he's not a mentally tough guy. When the pressure starts to mount, he doesn't handle it well, not the way that I would like him to. You know, I've seen guys get their brains bashed in behind shoddy offensive lines, and they keep coming, and they refuse to quit, and they stand in the pocket, and they make throws, and that's not who Carson Wentz has been, and that's been really disappointing. Now, again, I knew what we were signing up for when we got him, and my biggest thing was I didn't think he was going to have to deal with that here, because we haven't had offensive line issues in Washington for the last 5 years. So in my mind, I'm thinking no matter who's under center, and it's going to be Wentz, he's going to be protected because we got an offensive line coach that we thought was, he could take anybody. Give him water, he'll turn it into wine. We're fine. We were wrong, okay? And then you get some injuries up there. You throw in a couple of guys that are past their prime, and all of a sudden, you got a problem up front. And Wentz was supposed to be protected. He was supposed to be comfortable in the pocket, not under duress, not getting hit, not getting beat up, not leading the league in the amount of times he's been sacked. Instead, that's where we are, and I don't think he handles that all that well. Well, Heinicke, we can say what we want about his lack of arm strength, his penchant for turning the football over, but we know he's a gamer. We know he's going to keep coming, and we know he's going to use his athleticism, and we know he's going to execute the offense at a very high level. And now with better weapons, I'd like to see what he does, But I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted to see more Wentz. I wanted to see if he could actually get better within the offensive scheme. But for where we are, with what we're doing, now that we're playing better defense, now the D-line is going ape shit, now that, we're going to have a full complement of receivers more likely than not, now that Cole Turner is in the mix, we got all this stuff, and we know Heinicke likes the tight ends. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. We'll see what it looks like. Isaac. Really? I like the name. It's creative. Isaac D's Nuts. Isaac D Nuts. How do I become a mob member? It's easy. Just hit the join button. Now, if you're on a mobile device, it may or may not show up. I've heard, people tell me that it's there. I've heard other people tell me that it's not showing up on their mobile device. Then you just have to go and switch to desktop mode if you don't see it. But it's right near the subscribe button. The join button should be right in that same general vicinity. And you just hit that, and then you just follow the prompts. So, Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, A-Rod going to take his anger out on us. Damn. See, this is where you guys are wrong. You think that A-Rod can just turn the shit up. They're struggling, man. Like, everybody thought, the Buccaneers are going to destroy the Steelers this week. They're just going to go. Like, Brady's pissed off. The whole, conversation around would the Falcons have won if they would have gotten the football back and they got a gift and this, that, and the third. Brady's going to be pissed off, and he's going to take it out on one of the worst teams in football, in the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what did they do? They went there and they got out physical, they got out muscled, and they lost the football game. All right. There's no taking it out on anybody when you're not capable of getting it done at that kind of a level. Okay. That's not where the Packers are right now. That's not where the Rams are right now. That's not where the Bucs are right now. They're not taking out anything on anybody. Okay. The Packers, let me see. Has there even been a game this season where the Packers have scored 30 some odd points? Let's think about their season so far. They only scored 7 in week 1 against the Vikings. Week 2, they played, I want to say they were on Sunday night against the Bears, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they scored 30 that night either, but they won, and they won comfortably. But I think they were it was like 29 or 28. Let's just, I don't want to guess. I don't need to speculate. Let's just go and find out. All right. And see what they did. And I'm curious now. This means nothing, but I'm curious now. 27, 14, 27, 22, and 10. Does that sound like an offense that's going to explode on anybody? The league as a whole, points are down. Okay? Points are down. There's only an exclusive elite group of teams that can light up the scoreboard. It's a very, very short list. Okay? When the Dolphins are right with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Micah Parsons and some of those explosive guys that they have, they can light up the scoreboard when they get it revved up. But they got to have Tua and they got to have all those guys healthy, okay? So they're one of the few teams in the league that can do it, that have shown the ability to do it, all right? The Eagles have shown the ability. When they got it clicking on all cylinders, they're forcing turnovers. They're turning those turnovers into points. They've shown it, the ability to get up there and be able to score some points, all right? We know the Bills can do it. We know the Chiefs are another team that can do it. Right now, to me, that's the list right now. I mean, it's about 4, maybe 5 teams. Maybe I'm forgetting one team. Maybe the Bengals, if they get it going with Burrow and, of course, the trio of Higgins and Chase and Boyd and all of those guys, when they get it going, they can do it. And Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense, when they've got it clicking, they can be explosive as well. So that it's a small group. Probably those 6 teams right there. All right. I don't trust the Chargers right now to be explosive and dynamic and score a bunch of points. I don't trust some of these other teams that have the capability of doing it, but they haven't done it this season. The Packers aren't one of those teams. So this whole narrative of, Rodgers is going to take his first, he could, light us up. We're not a great defense in the secondary specifically, but if we do what the Jets did, which is get after his ass, which I know we are capable of. We did it last year in Green Bay when they had Devontae Adams. I know we can get after his ass this year with a lesser crew. What we got to make sure we do is stop the run. That's the shit that worries me, is them getting out on the perimeter with Aaron Jones. And I don't worry about A.J. Dillon because he's an in-between the tackles guy. We're going to stop his ass. It's Aaron Jones getting out on the perimeter that scares me. If we can limit that shit and make Aaron Rodgers beat us, I like our chances. V-Chow, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, do the Pats have a potential QB controversy brewing? I don't think so. But I did allude to it earlier, like there could be one. I don't think so. I think they've invested a first-round pick in Mac Jones. I think that's the quarterback of the future there. But I will say this, things have gotten a lot more interesting with the way that Bailey Zappe has played, to the point now where when Mac Jones comes back, if there's 2 games in there where he's struggling, like let's say the first 2 games, let's say he comes back next week. Let's see who the Patriots have next week. All right. This becomes like, this is crazy that this has even become a conversation, but the Patriots are now 3-3. Okay. And Bailey Zappe has started, the last 3 games, as a matter of fact, and he's won 2 out of the 3 and easily could have beaten the Packers and been 3-0 as a starter right now. But okay, let's just talk about this. They got the Bears next week on Monday Night Football. Not looking forward to that. But okay, he should be back. He almost played this week, so he should be back for that game. Then they have the Jets. That's a big one, right? Let's say that the Bears defense gets after Mac Jones's ass. He struggles, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He's 21 of 37 for 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and he fumbles. And they lose the football game to the Bears 23-20. The next week, they play the Jets, and the Jets get after him. And the Jets get after him. And he throws 2 interceptions, doesn't throw a single touchdown, throws 2 interceptions, fumbles again, and the Patriots lose the game 24-13. You don't think you would hear whispers, maybe even Patriots fans yelling, hey, put Bailey Zappe back in? I don't think it's a conversation right now. I think it's his job as soon as he's ready to come back, and it's not up for debate. But if he comes back and he struggles, I think that's where things get really interesting. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Anyway. Let's see. Wyoming. Thank you. Wyoming. Everybody that says Wyoming. I don't know why I couldn't think of Wyoming when I was talking about Josh Allen. I just totally blanked. Nevada kept popping in my head. Nevada. I'm like, it's not Nevada. Stop saying that. That's what I'm saying to myself in my head. Stop saying that. It's not Nevada. It's Wyoming. Thank you, guys. That was the school that Josh Allen went to. Isaac D's nuts. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Who writes? Okay, Lou, it's me. We already knew it was you. Who didn't know it was you? I wasn't explaining how to become a member of the Mob Squad to you specifically, but to anybody else that was out there watching and were new, explaining to them how to become a member of the MOBB. With a name like that, who else could it have been? Like, nobody else is doing that right now. Look, it's all you, bro. You got it. You got that whole category on lock right now. But you didn't even try to hide that one. You didn't try to hide it. Kel 2 times. Kel 2 times. 2X. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kel 2X writes, what is going on with the Cardinals? Me and my dad were having a great conversation. I was talking to Boss today. We were watching the games together, man. It felt good to watch the game with Boss, man. He said, man, the Cardinals stink. I'm not picking their ass no more, right? And he said, are they getting Hopkins back this week? I said, yeah, he's back this week on Thursday night against the Saints. He said, all right, I'm going to give him an opportunity to see what they look like with him in the lineup. And then if they still struggling, I'm done with them. I kind of feel the same way. Like, I want to see what they look like. Hollywood Brown left the game today. He was the one guy at receiver that you fear. You're not afraid of AJ Green at this point of his career. The second-year receiver Moore from Purdue, Rondale Moore, he's solid, right? He's a gadget guy at this point of his career. You're not afraid of Rondale Moore's route running ability or catching the ball over the top or any of that stuff. He's more of an underneath guy, get it in his hands and see what he can do out in space type of guy. Similar to Curtis Samuel if you're a Commanders fan. So he's not a guy that you really feel all that threatened by as a receiver. And so they're really hurting at the receiver position. Kyler Murray didn't have James Conner at running back. That hurt him in the game today. And he was their leading rusher. But he had nobody to throw the football to. And so getting DeAndre Hopkins back, I really truly feel like Hollywood Brown is a dynamic 2, but he's not a number 1. And so now getting Hopkins back puts everybody in their proper slots. You get Hollywood Brown back. I don't know the significance of the injury that he sustained today, but it sounded like it was something that he wouldn't be playing with next week, especially on a short week, which sucks. But if he comes back eventually, he's your number 2. Then you got Rondale Moore or AJ Green is your 3, and then Rondale Moore is your 4th option. And so everybody, then you got Zachary Ertz, and it all starts to fit in like a beautiful puzzle. But they're struggling on offense right now. The inconsistency is just maddening. Watching them is so frustrating because there are possessions where they got it going, they're clicking, and you're like, man, why haven't you been doing that all game long? And then there's drives where they look out of sync. They're going backwards. Murray looks scared. And, their play caller and Cliff Kingsbury, who ultimately, who doubles as their head coach, he's doing an awful job of, kind of settling them down and getting them to, down in distances where they can convert. And it's a mess. It's a mess. So I think right now the Cardinals defensively are good enough. I think where the problem is right now is they aren't good enough on offense. Maybe that changes with DeAndre Hopkins getting back in the lineup this week after serving his 6-game suspension. Miss Perry, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Mariota and the Falcons looked really good today. Mariota and the Falcons have looked good every week this season. The only game in which they were dominated thoroughly was the Rams game, and they came back and had the football down 1 score with a chance to win in that ball game. So there hasn't been a game this season where they've been out of it. Should have beat New Orleans in week 1. Easily could have beaten the Saints after falling down 31-10. Had every opportunity to beat the Buccaneers last week after running off the 15 points and didn't get the ball back because of a erroneous roughing the passer penalty on Grady Jarrett that, took that opportunity away from them. They were in that ball game, though, after, being down 21-0 and going into the 4th. That defense is solid. And Mariota, and I told you guys I was interested in Mariota last offseason when the Raiders hosed them essentially and forced them to take a pay cut after the QB market had dried up. And I was like, I don't want Ryan Fitzpatrick. Give me Marcus Mariota. I told y'all I was interested in this dude. I wanted to see if there was a second act. Now, I'll say this about Marcus Mariota. He's with the perfect coach, a guy that knows him intimately in Arthur Smith, who was there with him since he was a rookie with the Titans. And so everyone wouldn't be able to get the most out of Marcus Mariota because everyone doesn't know his skill set and his strengths and his weaknesses and how to put him in the best positions to succeed. Like, you couldn't bring Marcus Mariota to Washington in this offense that we have with Scott Turner and have him be successful, because Turner would not adjust to what Mariota does well. But Mariota's legs are a problem. His mobility outside the pocket that keeps him alive as a passer is a problem. And him being a part of the run game affects the run game, similar to Robert Griffin III and how he affected the run game with Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris wasn't a 1,300-yard rusher without the threat of Robert Griffin III running the football. And so Marcus Mariota, they had Huntley at running back today, getting yards. I mean, getting chunks. Why? Why is Jason Huntley getting chunks? Because Marcus Mariota's legs are threatening, and you got to respect it. And he ran for a touchdown. He got to the edge on several occasions. And so you gotta stay at home on that backside. So Huntley's able to take the rock, and with one less defender in the picture, able to ram it up in there. It was impressive. They picked off Jimmy Garoppolo. They stymied that 49ers offense. And it was funny because, the running joke with the Falcons, first of all, the helmets, the red helmets, dope. So good to see those. When I used to play Madden and I'd pick the Falcons, those were always the helmets that you wore. Like, you had to wear the all red helmets. But the running joke is they blow leads. Like, they can't sustain a lead. They're going to ultimately allow their opponent to come back and beat them. And they took a 14-0 lead just like that right out of the gates. And then boom, the 49ers, I think it was Brandon Ayuk, 2 touchdowns, boom, boom. And just like that, it's tied at 14. You're thinking, oh shit, that didn't take long. You already blew the lead. But they settled in, they settled down, scored a touchdown, scored another touchdown, and then they were able to hold on. They forced Jimmy Garoppolo into some mistakes, and they never really gave in. And that was impressive. And what did I tell y'all about the Falcons? And I don't expect them to win the division, but look, they're tied for first place with the Bucs at 3-3, right? I didn't expect that. I told you this season is drunk. But when it's all said and done, we're going to look up, and it's going to have the division leaders, slots 1 through 4. You're going to have your 3 wild cards, and you're going to have in the hunt. And the Atlanta Falcons are going to be in the hunt. And I mean that. I don't know if they're going to be good enough, and I don't think they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs. But they're going to be in the hunt as long as Marcus Mariota stays healthy. And I can't guarantee you that that's going to last for much longer, okay? But he stayed healthy to this point, and I'm happy for him. I like Marcus Mariota, and I like the success he's having. They were very, very impressive today. Abel Ambrosio, Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Abel writes, who's your dark horse MVP? And sorry for the Braves. No need to apologize. We won a chip last year, man. All right. The drought is over. We won a chip last season. We won 101 games. Don't cry for me, Argentina. All right. I had a fun season watching these young boys come alive. We got a core that's going to be around for the next decade. We locked just about everybody up. Okay. We're not going away. We're getting all our pitchers back. All right. Getting some young boys back that didn't even pitch this year. Like, we could be even better next year. So, don't cry for me. I feel good about where we're sitting right now, and we'll be back. You know, we got, and the Phillies played good ball, man. I got to give them credit. I don't like the fact that Major League Baseball, and I'll keep bitching about this, but look, the Phillies played, you know, in day games, just like we had to play in day games. But the one night game we played them in, it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence. It's 3-0. They don't score a single run. We dominate the game. I would have loved, I hate the fact that just because the Yankees are in the playoffs, we got to put them on at 8 o'clock. They got to be on at prime time. F the Yankees. Okay? Put their ass on 1 o'clock, one of these games. Put their ass on at 4 o'clock in the Bronx. Shit. Why we got to be on at 1 and 2 o'clock every goddamn day? That's bullshit. But anyway, got to give credit where credit is due. Dark Horse MVP. Let's see. I think when you think MVP, again, you got to look at teams that are good. So if I were looking at teams that are playing really well, I think a guy right now that is off the beaten path, and I don't think he's going to be, when you say dark horse, again, out of nowhere, Saquon Barkley would be a name that I would throw out there as a dark horse. Nobody's really talking about him, but the Giants are 5-1. They're not 5-1 without him. At one point, he was leading the league in rushing. I don't know. I don't think he didn't have a big game, particularly against the Ravens today. I don't think he even rushed for 50 yards. I could be wrong about that. I don't think there was a single big run from him in the game. And he did have, you know, obviously a couple of big runs, including the touchdown run at the end of the game when he jumped over the top. He had the run to put the game away when he slid down inside the 3-yard line. Kenyon Drake killed the Giants, however. I lied. Saquon Barkley, 22 carries, 83 yards. It didn't feel like he had an 83-yard day. I'm just going to be honest with you. But on the season, Saquon is second in the league with 616 yards rushing. Only 4 rushing touchdowns. But let me see what he's done from a receiving standpoint. If I can get to that. Receiving. Let's get to his receiving numbers. They don't look like they're all that impressive. Yeah, they're okay. I mean, he's 143 yards receiving, no touchdowns. But when you couple that with his rush yards on the season, he's in a really good spot right now. So I'd say Saquon Barkley with the 5-1 Giants. Now they've got to continue to play good ball, and he's got to be a huge reason, a part of the reason, you know, why they're playing good ball. But I throw Saquon Barkley in that mix. Let's see if I can think of another guy that we're not really thinking about right now that could emerge as a dark horse. How about, and again, it's rare that this happens, but how about Darius Slay? You know, we watched him get another interception tonight. Seems like every time he's on primetime television and the Eagles are at home, he's catching a ball and he's giving it to some kind of celebrity sitting down in those little boxes there. In the week 2 win over the Vikings, it was James Harden he gave a football to after picking off Kirk Cousins. Tonight he picks off Cooper Rush and he gives the ball to Meek Mill. What about Darius Slay, man? He's been really locking it down at the cornerback position. He's been a difference maker. How many interceptions does he have this year? Is he already up to 3 or 4? We know about 2 for sure. I'd like to know where he is in terms of how many picks he has on the season. Let's see if we can't gather that information and see where he is. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's got 3 interceptions on the season. I could be wrong about that, but I'm gonna say 3. That's the magic number for me. Darius Slay. He's got 2 interceptions. So the same 2 interceptions that I talked about are the same 2 interceptions that he has. And clearly he's going to have to be even more impactful than that in order to win MVP. But he's been dominant. And when we've seen him, he's been dominant. So I don't know. 2 is not a lot. It's not a big number. But he's interesting. But I'd say Saquon. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. He'd be my dark horse right now. Abel Ambrosio, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, when you see the Eagles get their first loss, when do you see? So let's take a look at their schedule and see. I mean, it could be a while, man, because honestly speaking, as I've mentioned, they got the Steelers next. They're going to win that game. They got the Texans after that on primetime on Thursday Night Football. They're going to win that game. They got the Colts after that in Indianapolis. They're going to win that game. Packers at home on a Sunday night will be interesting. Who knows what the Packers will be by then? Maybe they're a better team. Maybe they're a worse team. Who's to say? That'll be interesting. That's the next logical spot they could lose, if you ask me. They got the Titans at home after that. I don't think the Titans are good enough to beat the Eagles. Then they got the Giants. I'm going to be honest with you. They don't have to lose a game to be brutally. They're going to lose to somebody, but to be brutally honest with you, they don't have to lose a game because I don't see them sweeping Dallas, though. Dallas at the end of the season, the Eagles, the Giants, I could see the Giants getting them once. Somebody in the division is going to get them. I don't see them going 6-0 in the NFC East. So I think somebody in the division is going to get the Eagles. Hell, we got them one more time, and who knows what we'll be by the time we get to week 10. We could be a totally different team, or we could suck and they could smoke us again like a mother effing pack of cools. But right now, I think the first time they'll have a chance to lose will be the Commanders on the 14th, which is a Monday night. And then the Packers on the 27th. They could go to Indy and lose. Anything could happen, but the likelihood is they'll win against the Steelers, the Texans, and the Colts. So the Commanders on a Monday night in week 10 and the Packers on a Sunday night, week number 12, are the 2 games right now that I'm staring at and saying, hey, anything could happen in those games. And then you get to the back end of the season, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Giants. They're going to lose a game somewhere in there. Maybe 2, as a matter of fact. So it could be a while. Grab a Snickers. It could be a while before they lose. Could be a while. Really would have loved to have seen what would have happened if the Cowboys would have had Dak tonight. That would have been interesting. Chris Bloomfield, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Chris writes, Juan Gotti mentioned that A-Rod is going to unleash his anger on us. Love it. Going into a fight, you don't want to go in angry. Anger leads to errors. Again, I don't think Rodgers is going to go in. He was pissed off clearly after this ball game. We saw Tom Brady blow up on his offensive line. These guys aren't used to having things go the way that they're going with their respective ball clubs. So, they're trying to infuse a little life into some of these situations. I don't know. We'll see how these guys respond. They may respond well to Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady's, frustrations. And maybe this week there's a little bit more urgency and they practice better and then they play better on Sunday. Who's to say? But I'm not worried about anybody taking out any anger or none of that shit. Like, you still got to go out and play ball at the end of the day. So we're going to see what happens. Clapping Packed Cheeks, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, one time for the one time, Heineke. Hashtag Chase voice. Yeah, man, he looks like he's up. Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, when I mentioned winners and losers, I was talking about this drunk, high, doped up, cracked out, whole monkey on his back football season so far. Well, I'm just telling you, my sheet is shit. This might be my worst week in recent memory, and I've had it already with this season, and it's only 6 weeks old. I've had it. So what I'm gonna do moving forward is I'm gonna just pick, because I thought Atlanta. I think I might have told y'all that I thought Atlanta could win the game. I thought Green Bay could lose, but I didn't. Again, I bitched up and once again didn't have the balls to pull the trigger on the things that I thought, and so I deserve what I got. I thought Washington could beat Chicago, but I wasn't willing to take an L with my team anymore. I had taken on enough of those already, and so I'm gonna just start picking the shit that I feel like picking, whether I feel good about it or not. If I feel like that's the shit that I feel like doing that particular week, I'm gonna just do it. Because the people that pick shit that don't make sense are the ones going 12-3 and shit like that now. So I'm gonna get mine. It's out there to be had. I'm gonna go get mine. This season is drunk. I've already told you guys this. Big time. Today was another example of just how drunk this season has been. Anyway, that's the final super chat. Eagles remain undefeated, 6-0 with this 26-17 victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys lose for the first time in 5 weeks. Cooper Rush's 5-game win streak to start his career as starter of the Dallas Cowboys comes to an end. Dak Prescott is now looking to be activated off of the injured list, and looks like he's going to play against the Detroit Lions next week. And if you're an Eagles fan, you got to ride this wave. My guy, I'm mad I forgot his name, man. Comes to the barbershop. I was at the barbershop this weekend, and he came in, and he's a massive Eagles fan, and we always chop it up when he comes. And they said he's been insufferable at the barbershop, like just talking so much shit. And I said, hey, man, talk your shit, man. Y'all undefeated. Only team in the league undefeated. Talk your shit. He said, look, man, and he's Jamaican, so he's got an accent, and I love it. And he's like, you think I'm not going to talk my shit, man? See, I'm going to show him, because my barber's a Rams fan. They won the Super Bowl, and he always claims that he didn't take advantage of winning the Super Bowl. He didn't talk his shit the way that he needed to. Like, he should have been letting everybody know what was really good. He's like, you think I'm not going to talk my shit? Huh? I'm going to show him how to do it. And so I was like, talk your shit, man. Y'all undefeated. Y'all the only undefeated team in the league. Talk your shit. And they still talking their shit, man. They 6-0 now, still the only team in the league undefeated, and they get it done once again, this time 26-17 over the Cowboys. That was a fun game. It started out rough, and I was like, man, this was disappointing, but Cowboys rattled off 17 straight, got as close as 20-17, made it a ball game. But when the Eagles had to have it, and I got to give them credit, when they had to have it, they got it on that drive. And Hurts capped it off with a touchdown pass to Devonta Smith to put it away. And so this was a fun game. We'll see what we get for Monday night. But Eagles are 6-0. Giants are 5-1. Cowboys are 4-2. Man, this division is shaping up to be a fun one, man. It sucks that the Giants and Eagles don't play until later on in the season. Who knows what the Giants will be by then, but they're playing some exceptional football right now. That's for sure. Anyway, clapping packed cheeks. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Sorry, Joe. You know how luck gotta be last. So, Miss Perry, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, double up. Thank you for doubling up. Condo P. So he says, so you thought luck. I'm Petty Perry. Look at that. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys for joining me on the stream. If you're a Washington fan, look out for the film tomorrow. We'll get into that. I think that'll be something that we try to do. Get into the film tomorrow, and I'll try to get the studs and duds out early this week. No reason not to. So, clapping pack cheeks. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Right? Yeah. There you go. So, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless, and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.
Joe Rockhead J, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, ha ha ha. Y'all are crazy, man. All right, now we out of here.
LouieTeeNetwork.